To today's very special live session. I will just begin the panel discussion in a couple of minutes, just waiting for people to join in the live. All right, I think we are good to go. So, welcome everyone, first of all, to today's very special panel discussion on Beyond Borders, Law, India, and the UN. As the world prepares to mark International Justice Day on July 17th, we at Rest the Case wanted to open the conversation a little earlier to reflect, question, and engage deeply with the role of international law in India's legal landscape. This session is particularly special for us and meaningful for us as we approach Rest the Case's 5 year anniversary on July 15th. Over the 5 years, we've worked to make legal help more accessible, more human, and more connected to the realities people face every day. But as the legal system becomes more global, we found that these realities don't stop at borders. From gender rights to climate justice, from criminal reforms to global conflicts, the reach of international law is growing, and India's role within it is evolving. Thank you for being with us, and it's an important conversation. Before we begin and before I introduce our panelists, I would request everyone to please watch a small video about Rest the Case.
In a world where
In a
time is
world where time is
precious, getting
precious,
swift
getting
access to
swift
legal
access
help
to legal
shouldn't be a
help shouldn't
privilege,
be a
but a
privilege,
right.
but a right.
Welcome to Rest the
Welcome to
Case,
Rest the Case,
India's most trusted
India's most
online
trusted
platform for
online
legal
platform for legal
solutions.
solutions.
We are
We are
transforming the legal
transforming
tech
the legal
landscape,
tech
bridging
landscape,
gaps,
bridging
and bringing
gaps,
legal
and
support
bringing
to
legal support
anyone,
to anyone,
anywhere, at
anywhere,
any time.
at any time.
The legal field
The
in
legal
India can
field
be
in India can
overwhelming.
be overwhelming.
Courts are crowded,
Courts are
the
crowded,
search for the
the
right
search
legal
for the
help
right
is
legal help
confusing,
is confusing,
and legal fees
and
can be
legal fees can be
unpredictable. Many
unpredictable.
litigants
Many
face trust
litigants face
issues,
trust issues,
uncertain
uncertain about
about
finding a
finding a lawyer
lawyer
who
who
truly
truly
understands
understands their needs. Rest the Case solves this by providing verified lawyer profiles, making it easier than ever to find trusted legal support. That's where Rest the Case steps in. From consultations to document drafting and court representation, our digital platform brings legal expertise to your fingertips.
So our tools will make life simpler for litigants, retail by helping them reach the right lawyers. We are using GenAI, we are creating an improved matching system. And for B2B, which is for startups and mid-level corporates, we are helping them by doing tasks like document draft creation, also other aspects which relates to their internal process improvement.
Powered by cutting-edge technology, our platform leverages AI to match users with the most suitable lawyers. Based on expertise and location, from its start, Rest the Case has grown rapidly. With a presence across India, our mission is to provide legal accessibility everywhere, from big cities to smaller towns.
Our vision is to make legal support accessible and affordable for everyone in India. Our journey began in the lockdown where suddenly people did not know what to do or where to find the right legal support. We then realized that this is not just a pandemic issue. This is an issue that people face every day and everywhere. That's how Rest the Case was born. We bridged the gap between a lawyer and a client to give them a reliable place to find the right legal help.
Rest the Case, because every case deserves the right support.
Thank you for watching that video. I will now quickly introduce our panelists to everyone. On the panel today, we have Advocate Kush Brahmabhat. He is an accomplished lawyer and public policy advocate based in Vadodara. He has over a decade of experience in legal reform and civic leadership. He's the founder of several youth focused initiatives and currently serves on key government advisory bodies. We also have Advocate Ranesh Anand, who has over 8 years of experience.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the panel discussion. Who has 8 years of experience, and he is a practitioner at the Jharkhand High Court. He has experience in service law, criminal law, and cyber law. He holds a master's degree in administrative law from University of Sydney and is known for his meaningful, thoughtful, and multifaceted approach to law and society. We also have advocate Adhiraj Surana with 18 years of experience. He is the founder of Adhiraj Devraj Surana and Associates. He leads the firm litigation and IPR practice and is a trusted legal advisor to PSUs, corporate entities, and emerging startups across India. We also have Akash Chatterjee, who's a PhD scholar in intellectual property and at Law University of Calcutta, a published researcher and an independent filmmaker exploring social legal issues through a creative lens. So, welcome to our panelists. I hope all of you are ready to go and answer all the questions that we have today for you. So, I would like to start today's discussion with the UN and India and what is, India's role and India's obligations as a member of the UN. Anyone can take this up. We can just start off the discussion and then take it ahead from there.
So, hi, good evening, everyone. Today's topic is indeed very essential because, on one hand, we are celebrating a certain milestone, a certain amount of years UN has been there in existence, in proper existence, in a materialized form. And at the same time, we are also lamenting on certain gruesome anniversaries, anniversaries of wars going on, of conflicts beginning and finding no end. So at this very juxtaposing situation, this discussion on UN India, or rather the entire existence of a body of United Nations, existence of the international law as a soft law, brings up so many questions. Whether at all this law is effective, how much and to what extent do we feel the need to be working with this law? How is the new generation of advocates who are recently entering into practice, whether they should be aware of the nitty gritties of this particular law, and to what extent, throws up a million questions. But primarily, being a researcher myself and being from the academic background myself, the most important thing which should start the exposition for today's discussion is that the existence is there. The existence is not a myth, the existence is a fact. And just as the existence is a fact, its legal loopholes, or what we term as lacuna, is a fact itself. So our discussion should be rather to identify the lacuna in a more proactive way, in a productive way, so that that can be worked upon, rather than rather than engaging in a pessimistic discussion on the flaws. The idea should be to use the word lacuna in respect of law.
All right. Thank you for explaining to us how that is important. My question also then would be, what is the relevance of us being a UN member state to the Indian legal context? Is there any relevance, or are these two individual things which do not, correlate to each other? Advocate Adhiraj, would you like to take up that
Yeah,
question?
it's a very nice point out to. It's a nice point to ponder on. See, ever since we've been a originating member since 1945, we have contributed a lot when it comes to human rights discussion, human rights policies, gender equality, and making special laws in relation to domestic violence, whether it is POSH or sexual harassment at workplace, or in general for women empowerment. If we see, several judgments are also laid down on the same guidelines on the basis of UN Charter itself. The UN Charter itself plays a very significant role when it comes to a global foot ruling of judicial precedents that way. When we see Posh now these days, it has been very active because of the startup culture, the corporate culture, and all. But where has it originated from? It basically originated from the UN guideline itself for humanitarian grounds, for better workplaces for women, better grievance redressal forum for sexual harassment cases and all. So these guidelines were first laid down by the Vishaka judgment itself, where the Vishaka judgment laid down the guidelines for women to work in a better culture, in better environment, have better safety measures, and so on and so forth. So definitely, UN Charter plays a very important role, and India, being an originating member since 1945, has been contributing on and off into laying down the policies for humanitarian grounds. We are still trying to become a permanent member for UN. We have still not succeeded into it, but we are still trying to become a permanent member. So as on that happens, we are still guided by the UN Charter on and off through various judicial precedents.
Right. Um, then, Advocate Kush, would you help us with telling us, can UN resolutions or international conventions be cited in Indian litigation?
Okay. So I was listening to both of my colleagues, and they have been fantastically explaining the positioning of India and what has been the UN's role. Uh, it is a when we see India as a country in UN, we need to understand one thing, that since 1945, why we are not been part of UN as a permanent member, right? So positioning ourselves something in a UN and international framework, India's role under the UN Charter is that of a more of a proactive reformist and peace promoting sovereign state. And this kind of charter provisions require domestic incorporations also to be enforceable. And we basically inform and inspire a lot of things. I will I will talk more about enforceability. Then yeah, uh, we kind of take a lot of things wherein the discussions at UN happen, and more it is on a part of Indian legal and diplomatic practices with the other countries and all. Right, and when we see the topics that are being discussed there, it is more of international affairs and more of between the countries, and currently it is a multilateral kind of forum wherein India has been contributing fantastically. If you see, one of the best diplomatic wins at UN is our yoga day, International Yoga Day. We have I was part of Rishihood University's policy boot camp, wherein I was fortunate to meet the person, the brain behind the International Yoga Day, and he explained us that how this entire Yoga Day initiative India tried to brought it, right. It itself was a very big enforceability of Indian mindset with other countries, and many of the countries. As per the diplomatic viewpoint with India, they were supposed to not cooperate. Rather, many of the smallest countries, rather to big giants like China, right? There was a very big diplomatic win wherein our diplomatic officers made it work, right? So the when we talk about enforceability, there comes between a lot of perspectives too. That what we are bringing in from this discussion forums and what we are putting forward as a member country there. But I am not happy with the scenario wherein still India is not a permanent member. But the very important thing that today India is leading are on two bases. That when we talked about Kashmir dispute, India referenced its Article 27 non-interference in internal matters to contest third-party mediations. So we were very clear on our stage. Whether it be Trump or anybody, nobody will discuss what is our internal matter, and nobody can influence India as a country there, right? So this is what I see as a very big diplomatic win and very clarity of thought, that whatever is for all, welfare for all, India is enforcing all those things, and even bringing the topics such which will create Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in real sense, and with the thought of integral humanism in it. Because law, if we see law or if we see any kind of system that is designed in law, it talks about integral humanism in all its facets philosophically, right. And the second thing was when we talked about climate and global justice, our prime minister focused on life as an initiative. It introduced life initiative in a forum wherein how this entire practice and various techniques and technology was brought onto a global platform and introduced. So, but still, we as a country are not being permanent member, but we have been contributing fantastically and been doing a great job there as a diplomatic relation. If we see it as a policy reform, something like that, yes, we do involve ourselves in such dialogues there. And this is something I call destiny. That I was talking to someone that one fine day I'll be talking about India in UN somewhere. This is my dream that it will happen, and today this forum has given me this platform to discuss that. What is India and UN and how it is going to be ahead. So thanks to Rest the Case team for having me here.
It's a pleasure, sir, to have you on board and take your insights on this matter. It's rather important, I think, to be talking about this, especially with what's happening in the world around also, and how India plays a role in that. So, with that, then, Advocate Ranesh, I would kind of throw the next question towards you, where India has participated in preparatory work for the ICC, but it ultimately abstained from adopting the Roman statute, which established the court then. Why do you think we abstained from, and we did not ratify the Rome statute? Why do you think that happened? If you can help us understand that.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here, and good evening to everyone. Namaste. See, I want to start it from the very basics. What I believe as a basic. See, the United Nations is a political organization, and it started after in the aftermath of Second World War. Allied powers won the war, and then this UN was established. So, if we analyze the UN's working and all the international organizations running under it uh, from 1945 onwards, we will see that whoever was more politically relevant and more politically powerful at that point of time in global sense, whichever the nation was, has their saying approved by the UN. I'll come to your question also. I'll just start it with this. I was doing a research on ganja, marijuana, and what I found is this: there was this resolution of 1961,
Yes.
Psychotropic Substances Act, and then India was asked to sign. India ratified that, but India did not implement that resolution immediately. So they gave 25 years time. And in 1985, we know that we have enacted NDPS Act after 25 years of that resolution. Now, why did we do that? Why we enacted that law? We already had a report in 1894, uh, a big report, and you will find all kinds of discussions in that report, which says that marijuana is not uh, harmful to the people, and it is very much part of the cultural part of India, and it was done by the British government. But still, India signed and enacted that law because India needed that global support at that point of time. India was enforced. This we call it in policy sense. We call it a transfer of policy. It was imposed upon us. So now, as learned friend Advocate Kush was saying in about International Yoga Day, now India is becoming more and more uh, powerful because world needs India's market. Global players need India's market. So, in, International Yoga Day was a kind of a soft power.
Soft power.
It was a soft power of India, which every country accepted it, all the major giant nations, because somewhere they all are seeing that India needs the world needs India, Indian market, Indian people for that. So In my understanding, the whole organization, it is all a political organization. It doesn't have to do with much about with the legal legal aspect. Now, coming to your question about international criminal code, see, for any country to run, it needs a comprehensive criminal justice system. Now, as we all know, we have recently updated our criminal laws. We from 1860, from Indian Penal Code, we amended and we changed that. Although there are many questions that it is 90% copy based and everything, but for that criminal justice system, you need your own legal. It has to Your legal system has to be more powerful. Now you see Vijay Mallya's case or Nirav Modi's case or Mehul Choksi's case. Although the case is going on, Indian courts are giving the judgments that yes, he has done the fraud, he has defrauded the bank, but we could not extradite that person in India. And when international criminal court will enter into it, that kind of cases, because once you start entering into it, will start with the big cases, then it will go into the very small cases. It's bank default cases, a very small case. These criminal, you may say that these accused persons may get, if they get access to the UK's code. And what I have learned is Mehul Choksi is taking citizenship of some country in this West Indian states. In some country has taken that citizenship. Many countries are offering citizenship on the basis of money, that you pay that much money, you get that citizenship, their citizenship. So I feel it will become more and more complex, and it will be difficult to implement your own criminal law if the country will part of the international criminal code. So that's why I believe that India did not become the part of the international criminal code.
Do the others agree? Do you think India should become a part of ICC?
See,
Yeah.
what sorry, can I?
No. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
See, what I feel is when I talk about ICC also, we need to clarify two things. That what my learned friend Ramesh said, that the accessibility, right? When we talk about accessibility of justice, it should be to all, right? But with it, the jurisdiction limits and the processes has to be more clarity defined. Now we see that the judicial system and the process of getting justice in India itself, if a single petition is drafted in a 138 check bounce petition, simply if we draft it in Gujarat state, right, the entire what you can say, the design of the entire plaint changes on in the another state, right? So we have a lot of variety in our individual practices also, right? Nevertheless, we are defined by a uniform law, a specific act, but still some courts which are out of Gujarat, which I have traveled, maybe Hyderabad or even in two cities, when we talk in Vadodara and Ahmedabad, nearly 100 kilometers, the format of petition, the format of practice entirely changes, right? So it is again what the will is, how much clarity we have and how much accessible it should be. And again, when we are talking about accessibility, understand AI, the artificial intelligence is going to be one of the biggest challenges, because without it, any kind of judicial system is never going to work, because we have to adopt it. You know, whether we think about it or not, it is now a subject matter of discussion. We recently saw a video wherein a judge in my, I think in London, UK court was not able to understand that whether it was a real person or it was a AI, and she came to know that it was an AI who was giving her the answers. Right? When we see such kind of mischiefs happening in a technology failure countries, then think about India. We have many lessons to be learned. Nevertheless, our judicial system is trying its best, because the three codes that were reintroduced, reframed, and the way it has been designed, there are still many loopholes in it, right? If See, if on this forum, if we are discussing as a lawyers, we need to accept one thing, that lawyer is just a mere part, a court officer of the entire judicial process that goes in the court, right? It is all on the basis of what we say, what we plead, and how better we can make judge understand that what has been the cause of action and how it has been done and what the other parties involved and how much proportion they were involved into, right? When you understand, when in a small subject matter this kind of internal and external environment coexist, then we talk about ICC and its implementation, it coming and influencing the to the passing through international borders, coming to countries like India. It is a global challenge that every country is going to face. And more over the less, I feel that we need to understand one thing, that a minimum standard proportionate could be maintained, and the first phase could start, but then we have a very long way to go.
Then what
And
would
just
see
adding
if you
on, sir, that while sir was discussing on this particular thing of policy transfer, or putting up enforcing a policy on someone, the biggest disaster, the biggest policy disaster with involvement in Rome Statute or ICC imposition would be the disadvantage of global South, because just the way we see in treaties, we see in international trade law, the developed lobby would always definitely want to safeguard their own interests. Once again, this is a fact. This is something which the international order is living with. Now, if the same thing is coming into judicial policy making and judicial sovereignty, countries who are developing, countries who are now slowly, achieving those milestones, would obviously invite unwarranted interference in their judicial sovereignty, in their affairs. Something which we have seen with ICC. Their level, frequency, and intensity of development in Europe and America, United States, vis-a-vis their development in the African countries. Something which we have already seen in front of us. So we cannot, in India, or the policy makers in India cannot possibly risk that. One more thing would be the recent situation of a particular arrest warrant being issued against Vladimir Putin. Now, the countries which are part of it, which have signed, which have been with the Rome Statute, it becomes a diplomatic crisis for them to now invite or house or chair a session with a particular leader of influence. So all of this brings us back to the one question with which even I wanted to start, or we will definitely delve into it, is that our initial stance of a non-alignment. The initial stance of a non-alignment, or NAM, should not have been just an option for the developing countries. It must have been kept as a policy option for the entire UN as a whole, because a polarization in the developed world would obviously vitiate any development in the global south as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with Akash for that matter. When you see the UN Charter, see, when we see the ICC itself is a separate entity altogether. And many developed nations, even the US, the China, the Russia, they have also not opted to become members of ICC even till date. Why so? Because it is going to question their own private sovereignty. It is going to politicize their own judicial system, their own judicial discretion over it. Whenever a judicial discretion or a judicial indiscretion is being questioned at a national level, of course, the bigger players are also going to have a dominance over the smaller players. And when the involvement, or rather the interference of the bigger players, extend to the small developing economies, the developing nations, it's going to have a radical and a negative impact on the development of the small developing economies itself. So, unless and until, at least that's my opinion, we become a permanent member to the UN Charter, I don't think it should be completely adhered to when it comes to ICC, because it's going to lead to politicization. We are, anyways, having a too much of politicization and political interference when it comes to judicial discretion. And when we give in to the UN Charter or the ICC, it's going to only increase rather than be balanced about it. That's what I feel.
Advocate Ranesh, yeah, please go ahead.
See, I'll add, agreeing to all whatever the learned friends and this panel has said. I'll just add few things. If you go to our courts, be it any high court, district court, or Supreme Court, let's take Supreme Court. We all know that many judgments are politically influenced according to the time and place, time and situation.
We have to
Now,
accept it, yeah.
now take it and what do we call it? Take it on a larger level. If the cases will go on international court, do you think that the judges will be fair and there will be no political angle involved in that? Let's take it from another example. In global politics, we have something called as the great game. And the great game involves who controls the region between Afghanistan and Pakistan area for the global south, as Akash was saying. So who
As per
controls that?
geopolitical
That's
forces.
why US was there. Now US has backtracked from Afghanistan, Taliban, but Taliban is being supported by the US government.
By the
Now,
US government.
if
Yes.
India becomes part of the International Criminal Court, the first thing that Pakistan will do is take the Kashmir matter to there,
To the US.
that there to that ICC, that there is genocide going on, there is religious conversion, and all that kind of things. And believe me, all those major players who wants India to be subdued, who wants India to control India, will
Just a
support Pakistan in that. So whenever a law or any ratification is being done of any resolution, we have to see what angles are involved in that. Just that human connection, that for the human rights we have to do it, it it looks good and to read and write to understand, to see that, oh, we have such great organizations, but internally if you go into the integrities of that, you will find a heavy politics is involved in all these things.
And I think their own procedures are not uniform. The entire
Yes.
procedure of the ICC is itself not uniform, and it is going to be dominated by the superpower of the countries, of the global economies and all. Once it does not has a uniformity in itself, only when it becomes uniform is where it is going to adhere to the needs of the developing countries, the needs of the developed nations, and the needs of the underdeveloping economies and all. As of now, with the structure it has, basically, first of all, it does not have any structure. The only thing which it rests on is on humanitarian grounds, is on human rights. And when you stretch the imagination or the discretion of human rights altogether, there's no meets and bounds to which it can have that elasticity, to an extent of which it can be spread out to. So unless and until that happens, it's going to have a negative effect and impact for Indian development itself.
Since we're touching on the topic of human rights, my next question also pertains to that. Sometime back, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights had criticized India, especially over the Foreign Contribution Regulation Amendment Act, and to which India had said that laws is a sovereign prerogative. It is not global. It is something that is each country's business basically. So where do we draw the line in between respecting national sovereignty and complying with international human rights norms? I mean, I would like to know this from the entire
I will
panel actually.
I will like to start if all my
Yeah.
colleagues allow me. Uh, मुझे ना एक बहुत अच्छा एक स्टोरी याद आ रहा है, जो यूएन मतलब यूएन डिस्कशंस का एक पार्ट था, यूनिवर्सल डिक्लेरेशन ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स। अब मैं आपको समझाता हूँ, मैं जिस शहर से बिलोंग करता हूँ ना, उसका नाम है बड़ोदरा, और यहाँ की एक वाइस चांसलर हमारी थी, हंसा मेहता जी करके। हंसा मेहता वेंट देयर and she did something that entire UN was struggle to understand. There was a line in it. It was written, "All men are born free." So she asked that, "What about women?" and she strongly opposed it. And today it stands that all human beings are born free. Indian mindset and talking about sovereignty, when we see UN, it's a political structure, right? Why are we being forced whenever whenever there is something that we stood strong on, if it is about Kashmir, if it is removal of articles, if it is protecting our boundaries, there has been continuous things wherein we are being noticed on, we are being observed on. I want to ask one thing: where is UN as a body when Pahalgam attacks happen? Where is UN as a body when in Kashmir the soldiers of our army dies? Where is UN wherein lot of other politically funded and specifically other countries funding terrorism in my country, and you as a UN just being part as an international body? If you are asking me that, you should not be very this you should be not be so much closed, you should not be such uniform, you should not be doing this thing, it is very it is not investment friendly, then I want to ask one thing: that if it was not, then why has been US never given a notice about such things when he contributes to warfare in another countries? And it is very evidently seen. I want to make one very bold statement here that भारत को क्या करना है, भारत को कैसे करना है, वो ये नए भारत को पता है और वो कर भी रहे हैं. हमने आज तक चीजें देखी, हमने समझी, हम रुके, हमने कभी पहले वार नहीं किया, बट अब जिसका जो सवाल होगा उसको उसी हिसाब से जवाब मिलेगा. This is a very bold statement that our country and our leaders have given it into UN. Even we talk about FCRA, Foreign Contributions and Act, it became a tool of sponsoring terrorism. If we have all the records placed in digital frameworks, wherein if you see the strong regulations being made, the foreign contributions itself has been becoming very difficult to such NGOs who have been funding the terrorist and anti-national activism in India. So, if someone is coming and asking my country or my legislators that, this is making you very sounding as a not a good country or something like that, तो ठीक है ना भाई, हमें नहीं चाहिए आपका, आप अपनी एडवाइस अपने पास रखिए, ठीक है. आप आके मैं आके अमेरिका को बोलता हूं कि ट्रम्प जो कहते हैं तुरंत ही ट्वीट कर देते हैं, ऐसा उनको नहीं करना चाहिए. जो उन्होंने एलोन मस्क के साथ किया वो बुरा किया. See, everybody knows one thing, that US has been a contributing member to UN, right? To all international bodies, and they have been contributing to them in financial matters till everything. If you see, those countries have been having large decision making powers than countries as India, right? Just because through a time frame wherein these bodies were being made, they were as a nation more strong and were able to fund such organizations. But that doesn't give clarity on their intentions behind funding organizations such as UN. So those countries can keep mum and do their work and let India do its work. Talking about sovereignty, India completely knows how sovereign India is, and its legislators have complete definitions of what sovereignty means, because we as a country have sovereignty as a word in our preamble itself, right? So it is very self-declaratory that we don't want any kinds of definition. Rather, we don't want to define anything. We will define as and when time comes. And when we talk about uh, India's contribution towards UN in lot of things, then I will also like to remember that India has been a significant contributor to UN's peacemaking force. So these kind of contribution doesn't come because it is not internationally the internationally funded media doesn't give this kind of insights, right? But if something small happens in my country, in my state, it goes to New York Times and there is a sketch made. So this is a political motivated and politically funded agenda of the countries who have been trying to assimilate their viewpoint as they are very caring. But I'm sorry, it is just an agenda, a very clear agenda, and India knows this international agenda because now we have such government that is stabilized, and they don't take anything on lateral basis. They discuss it and they deliver it. Sorry if
Yeah,
I am
good.
very strong in my language, but थोड़ा दिल से निकल गया है.
Not to be offensive or any outrightly negative about it, but I had some pointers in it. I have some opinions of my own. I understand India needs to be sovereign about its own decisions. India needs to be having its own discretions in exercising those decisions and all. But it is definitely, I mean, when you see us in the global perspective, when you see us as a global developing nation, and when you see us to go in the path of becoming a superpower for the world economies or the world nations to look up to, of course we'll have to be open about evolving with the humanitarian grounds, with the human rights evolution which is happening across the world over and all. Of course there has to be specific silver lining. There has to be bifurcations into what is going to be the territory in which India is going to be tolerant about their involvement, and India will not tolerate about their involvement and all. And these boundaries have to be set. For example, I can only understand that when it comes to defense, of course we are not going to understand, or we are not going to tolerate any interference in that matter when it comes to the safety and security of our nation and all. But having said that, when it comes to working conditions of people, when it comes to sanitation, when it comes to health benefits, when it comes to proper representation of genders, all these things, of course we have to keep an open eye and an open mind into the evolution which is happening across the world over. We cannot just say that we have been in under hygiene conditions for the past 1 year 100 years. We are going to continue to do so. We have been living into underdeveloped or under handed situations when it comes to the development of third gender, or when we cannot say that we have been in below poverty line country since almost a century now, and we'll continue to do so irrespective of the technological advancement or the developments or the evolution for that matter and all. Of course I'm not supporting the interference altogether, but we'll have to keep an open mind into the evolution of how human rights is developing, sensitivity is developing, and things and mechanisms are being in place to address these kind of issues when it comes to human rights. For example, if I may say so, the UN has elaborated this decade, that is starting from 2020 to 2030, dedicated towards the betterment and development of the senior citizens. And that goes across the globe, not only underdeveloped countries like Africa or developing nations like India, but for that matter, for the entire world. The focus has now been for the betterment or better living conditions and development on humanitarian grounds for senior citizens. That is how the UN charter works on different kind of areas of betterment and development. So as and when we can of course set boundaries on what interference we will not tolerate, we'll also have to keep an open mind and keep an open tolerance level as to the evolution of what we can adapt and we can grow as a nation, taking from the betterment of the UN charter. That's what I feel.
I would just like to add on to Sir, and I completely share the particular passion with which Brahmavat Sir has elaborated on this matter. And Sir Adhirat Sir, just adding to you, while on the domestic front, it is very important that we have a tolerance and we also set our limits. At the same time, at the international front, when UN is going out in criticism, when UN is going out against pointing out certain things, they should also reject their selective interference sort of a policy. They
Of
should
course.
come out against xenophobic targets in the developed world, against targeting of the rising Asian hate, the rising
Right,
Indian
right,
hate,
exactly.
particularly. When we found comments like the plane must be smelling of curry, When we found comments like this on Twitter after the horrific plane crash, we
Yeah,
were exactly flabbergasted that that is
yeah,
the level of xenophobic hatred that has developed, anti-migrant hatred, all of this in the developed world. So they are also not without problems, and they are, and you even should also be highlighting those things when they have particularly highlighted a situation in a global south country like India, when they have supported travel advisories which makes traveling for women not safe alone in India. They should also be backing these issues in the developed country. It is only when they reject their selective outrage and rather enforce neutrality that all the countries would also have this openness to
Exactly.
accept. Rejection
Exactly.
of propaganda should start from their side also. It should be a two-way
Yes, yes.
process.
So bottom line should be the neutrality of it. It has to be
Exactly.
for everybody. Same situation, same instances, and same applicability for all the people. That's how it has to be.
yeah. So it seems we all from in the panel have painted UN in a very negative way and a negative sense. So I'll just
It's
add.
not negative. It is just
No, no, no. We are not going negative. We
No,
are
no,
just
I'm just
wanting.
uh,
lighting the mood. So I will just add one positive aspect of UN in a sense. We have heard about Kedar Jadhav case,
yes,
how International Court of Justice stopped the punishment meted out to the Kedar Jadhav. And there was another case of few of the Indian sailors or nurses
Yes, yes, sailors.
given
Yeah, Navy men. Navy men. Yeah.
capital punishment in Iran.
Yes, yes, yes.
There also there was an involvement of International Court of Justice.
International Court of Justice. Yes.
So ICJ is also part, and it also evolved from the United Nations. So
Yeah.
I believe that it has UN has some good work also, which we must appreciate. And with that, the footnote that I'll add, the more the country will become economically powerful, politically powerful, you will see UN in your favor. You will see organization in your favor. So my understanding is it's all a political game, nothing else.
exactly.
Yes, yes, and I think that is what it shouldn't be. I mean, when you talk about humanitarian grounds, when you talk about human rights, when you talk about being a superpower and connecting all the countries or all the nations of the world, it's a more bigger responsibility on you to become more neutral in terms of addressing all the people at the same footing, at the same level. You cannot just pick and choose on bigger people to be favored to, and the smaller people or the lesser dominated country to be against it. So that's how it should be. It should be a neutral ground which gives a same stance for everybody, for representation, for justice, for judicial discretion, everything. Even, I mean, that's what I feel. That's what UN should be.
When Ramesh bhai is talking about ICJ and the thing, uh, I it happens to be that I have been working in little bit of what ICJ judges and how are they been. The elections are there and they are getting selected. I will like to quote one name, Justice Nagendra Singh. I think it was his name, and another justice who was Bhandari, Justice Bhandari. These two people, uh, I think Nagendra Singh was the uh, only Indian who was president of ICJ, right? And his tenure was is remarkably today also discussed as India's contribution to international legal thought. And Justice Bhandari, uh, problem क्या है पता है? We Indians don't make good Bollywood movies on such contributions what India is making at international level. तो क्या है लोगों को पता ही नहीं है. So because India is influenced by two things, cricket and Bollywood,
Yeah.
right? This Justice Bhandari story. was referred to me by my one of my seniors, uh, and he told me that it was for the first time that Justice Bhandari faced heavy opposition from UK, and in the entire UN history, it was one of the most fierce contested elections that happened in the history of ICJ. And after 11 rounds of voting, it happened that there was some candidate who withdrew his. There is a term called P4 or P5 members. Uh, uh, Permanent members are told as there are five permanent members who constitute to this body. This is a lingo, P5 members, and it was for the first time this P5 members had a very strong fight, and Justice Bhandari won, and he won in 2013 and 17. So if this discussion reaches to some good Bollywood scriptwriter, then I want him to write and research about these two judges. And the thing is that we as a lawyers also, if given a 1 minute last, I would like to talk about it. That we as a community also have to talk these things to our fellow community members,
Fraternity.
and because people don't know what lawyers have been contributing in developing this nation. Right, today we see Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, even Vidhan Sabhas, nearly 60% of the members are have done LLBs or LLMs, and they have been contributing as legislators. Even at Supreme Court there have been landmark judgments that have been made protecting the constitution. So it is a very interesting history that lies, but we as a community are failing to make it live and bringing it to the people. But I think that rest the case has this responsibility, and we'll be making such forums wherein we discuss such kind of the things, and people understand UN and its India and the framework of what India has been contributing. But I hope that rest the case takes this responsibility, and I'm ready to contribute that this legal history and the contribution of the lawyers, we can what you can say structurize or document so that we could pass it over to our next generations those are coming.
Anyways, when
Definitely.
you say, sorry, Ranesh,
No,
just
no,
2 minutes. I'll
you
just.
continue.
So anyways, when you say that we have contributed to, whether it be Kulbhushan Jadhav's case or any other for that matter and all, see, we have, I mean, सारा गलत काम या सारी चीजें गलत नहीं है यूएन में अगर हम आईसीजी भी देखें या आईसीसी भी देखें ऑफ कोर्स नेगेटिव पार्ट्स आर देयर वी हैव टू tweak our tolerance level and everything, but when you see global perspective, when you see international economies booming up, of course liberalization के साथ साथ global participation उतना ही जरूरी है. We cannot deny the fact that we have to be a part of the UN chapter, we have to be a part of the globalization, क्योंकि अगर वो नहीं होगा तो we'll not have WTO, we'll not have IPR issues, we'll not have posh measurements on place, we'll not have child protection on place, we'll not have humanitarian grounds and human rights on place. फिर लीगल कस्टडी में जो जुडिशियल डेथ होती है, सॉरी जुडिशियल कस्टडी में जो डेथ होती है, टॉर्चर्स होते हैं, थर्ड डिग्री होता है, वो सब कुछ भी नहीं होगा. So we have to see what good UN has done, and we have to pick and choose as to what is applicable in our country and what we can think of and what we can learn from that, even from the judicial perspective, even from the advocative perspective and all. So it's not all bad. Of course, it's not all too good as well. So it's a neutral ground that we have to choose from.
Exactly. That's something which I was also pointing out in the beginning, that the facts need to be there. It's just that we have to highlight the lacuna in a positive manner.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
something which Sir pointed out on disability. This is a huge development,
Use
and
the
this is a positive consensus in
Yeah.
policy, because the policy is always resting on a consent. If even if we look at Nalsa judgment, the entire influence behind Nalsa judgment, we have to some extent proceeded with the LGBTQIA representation also. A
Yeah,
lot of is
exactly.
left, but there is this global push by this institutional body.
It is
That is good.
policy framework and policy environment in India is more about narrative. That what narrative comes up, whether it is from international bodies or it is from local ecosystem.
Yeah.
Very true.
But then I think that narrative also gets developed over the globalization only,
True.
and we have to keep our eyes open for that evolution.
Um,
I'll
I
just
would,
answer a
yeah.
question which has been asked by someone from the audience. It's the
Yes.
question is, have Indian
Oh,
courts
yeah,
ever
we
changed the
have question and
decision
answers as well. Okay.
Oh,
because of UN rule or treaty? So, if I remember it correctly, there are many environmental law judgments, environmental law cases where the international legal aspects have the Indian courts have
Yes, yes, yes.
given a
MC
judgment on
Mehta
those
sir has taken
cases.
out, yeah,
MC
a list of
Mehta, and there was
list of
there was
cases.
this
Philosophy, let's say.
judge of Supreme Court who's called as the
Yeah,
Green Judge. He
yeah,
has taken many judgments influenced from those international resolutions and
exactly.
being passed. So it's there. Yes.
Even compensation, deep pocket theory, the
Yeah, yeah,
development
yeah.
of such doctrines also has come from an international push.
Unless and until there was a pressure on the global issue or a UN charter and all, probably the mass hazardous substances factories would not be shut down because of that. On basically working conditions of a labor or even a corporate employee, or for that matter for any other employee, has been improved over a period of time because of global indulgence, because of the UN indulgence and all. So it has, I mean, it has a quite a lot of impact when it comes to environmental laws, when it comes to employment laws, when it comes to sexual harassment laws. So it has contributed a lot for that matter.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, but we are running out of time. I had so many more questions for the panel, but we're already touching the 1 hour mark. Um, and most of the questions that I had have been answered today. I would to summarize what we had discussed. I think is that
Can I
UN
take a
is
leave? Can I
yes,
take
sir.
leave?
Please, yes, yes, not a problem.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
for
joining us.
everybody,
Yes,
and it was a very insightful
Thank you, Ramesh.
experience.
it
Thank
was
you
a
very much.
pleasure
Same here, the
having
same.
you. Thank you. So, as I was saying, to summarize today's conversation, I think what we took away was how I would look at it is take UN's and global perspective with a pinch of salt and apply it to how it how it applies to us as a country. Um, and thank you to our esteemed panelists for sharing their insight, experience, and perspectives. I personally thoroughly enjoyed today's discussion. I always say on panel discussions that I personally learn so much, and I'm sure our audience also does. So many things that I don't know, I get to know through these discussions. And as advocate Kush also pointed out that for us at Rest the Case, it is our main aim to make law accessible to everyone, to show how important it is in framing the country, in the functioning of the country, how important law is, how important lawyers are. And I mean, thank you to you people for doing that for us. And we're trying our best to become a part of it and to show the country that how important law is and how it can be made easy. It doesn't have to be so complicated. And in saying that, again, we are celebrating 5 years at Rest the Case, and it is on July 15th. So it is a big year for us, a big number for us. And we hope that such discussions, inspire lawyers, students, and change makers to pay closer attention to whether it is border issues or legal issues within our country. Like we also mentioned, in a world as connected as ours, we cannot ignore the fact that we live in a global world, global village, as everyone likes to call it. But thank you again for joining us. I hope that I see you all again in the next discussion. And thank you to our audience for being a part of today's very special panel discussion. Thank you so much again, and have a very good evening.